Hello and welcome to Seatton Education. I'm Victoria. Once again, we're diving into the world of home education to show that homeschooling really can be an achievable educational option. April Huard is the Director of Education at Clonlara, an accredited private school that serves over 2,200 students in 6 languages and 70 countries. It has a physical school that offers hybrid learning opportunities in Michigan, United States, and an off-campus program that caters to homeschooling families around the world. April was a public school teacher before she began home educating her own 5 children. April, hello, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Can you give a better introduction to what Clonlara is? It's not something that, if you haven't come across it, you might not understand. What is it? It's not a typical
Right. It's a
school.
little bit hard to wrap your mind around. Just to go back to the beginning of the school, our founder, Pat Montgomery, looked around Ann Arbor, Michigan for a school for her own kids in 1967 and didn't find anything that she really wanted. She had also been a public school teacher. She looked at all the options. Nothing matched her vision. And so she started Clonlara School. And really, the founding philosophy of the school was to let children take the lead, to really follow their interests, to have it be a truly student-centered learning environment. And so that's how the school started. It started with the physical campus in Ann Arbor, where we still have that there. If people are local, they can of course enroll in that. But what happened in the early 70s is that people started to hear about this different model of education, this different philosophy, and they would come to Ann Arbor and ask Pat, how can I do this? I'm too far away from the campus to bring my students here, but how can I do the same thing that you're doing at the campus? And so that's how our off-campus program was born. And it started out with just like writing letters back and forth and Pat supporting people. And it's grown really into this program where, as you said, like over 2,000 students enroll from 70 countries. We have programs in 6 languages. And so that's kind of what Clonlara is, a little summary.
Now, your journey is interesting because you were a public school teacher. How did you make that transition and why?
Yeah, my husband and I were both teaching in a public school actually, and we started to have our own kids. And when my oldest was ready to go to kindergarten, the first year of school in the U.S., I had 3 kids by then, and I thought, oh, I really just missed my kids, to be honest. Being away from them all day. I would love the summers because I could be home. But I thought maybe I'll just try taking 1 year off, just that kindergarten year. How much it can't hurt anything, just kindergarten. So I thought I'll just stay home. I'll take 1 year of parenting leave and I'll stay home with, my oldest, and we'll just see how it goes. And we had such a lovely year of just, learning things together, being outside, reading so many books. And it was just so nice. And I never went back to teaching. I stayed home from then on. We had 5 kids. And so it really became a lifestyle for us. I mean, not just the academic, what are we learning part, but just the whole rhythm of your life when you're homeschooling is a little bit different. And we grew used to it and really, really loved it. And we just kept on with it. Eventually, a couple of my kids did go back to like a public school. My oldest graduated from a public school. She went back later in high school, but my second graduated from homeschool. She stayed homeschooling the whole way through. And my kids have done a lot of different things, but we just really appreciated the lifestyle and the culture it gave our family.
And how old are your children now? Are they all
So
graduated?
my oldest is 27. Yep, she has her own family now. And my second is 25. My third just graduated from college last year. And then my fourth is in college right now. And then I have one left who is in 8th grade at the moment.
And you work, you're the Director of Education for
Yes.
Clonlara. How do you balance that with homeschooling your own kids?
Yeah. So when they were really little, I did stay home. I mean, I quit my job and stayed home. But eventually, as they got older and more independent, and that's really the goal is that, as kids are moving through school years, that they become more and more independent. And so I saw that happening. By the time I came back to work, I only had 2 left who were in school. And, we managed just with, being really clear what the expectations were, making sure the students had, the right resources to work on their own. We joined some different kind of in-person co-op kind of things in our area. And so by, just putting through some things together and bringing in other people to help, it worked fine.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that is difficult for parents who don't home educate to understand how independent learning can become quite quickly. People always talk about the high school years, but I mean, really, even once your child can read, there is a
Yes.
huge amount that you can, suddenly you're having half hours where you can say, read this book and we're going to talk about it in half an hour.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's very different from the classroom setup, because there'd be absolute mayhem if you said to 30
Yes.
kids, right, all do your own thing for half an hour and then we'll come back together. So I
Right.
think it's interesting that you mentioned that. And also bringing back the idea of you working, that homeschooling really is a lifestyle. It sort of restructures the whole
Yeah.
family life. What were the sort of positive changes that you saw in your family that maybe some people who weren't homeschooling, you maybe didn't see those dynamics develop?
Well, I think the time that your kids can spend together, as siblings is something that you'll never regret. And even the time that, I could spend with them, we have a lot of memories of like sitting around and, just reading a read aloud, just being, reading the same thing. They were all ages, but we found that they could all kind of listen and, enjoy the same book. And so just those shared experiences, we did so many field trips and so many, um, experiences with our friends who are also homeschooling.
Mm.
You look back now, I'm pretty much finished and you think, oh, I wouldn't trade those memories for anything. And so, we also, set our own schedules. Like my kids stayed up later because their dad was working,
Mm.
late, and they could see their dad and then sleep in later in the morning. We could do things at different hours and we weren't, constrained to a school day. We just had a lot of freedom. And I thought, for kids who are normally, at least in the US, like often very overscheduled, it
Mm.
felt, very relaxed and, free and flexible, which was
Mm.
really nice.
I think it's a great point that you make about the overscheduling. That happens here too. And I feel very sad about it, because I know that parents jam pack their kids' schedules, not because they're mean parents, but because they
Right.
really, really want to do the best for their
Oh,
children.
sure.
And sometimes, I think a lot of times, that huge amount of things that the kids are doing, particularly if you have more than one child and then you're running to 5 different after school clubs,
Hmm.
actually, something has to give, and often it's family time that
Yes.
gives. And therefore the inverse of that is, when you take some of those things away, something fills that space, and often that is quality time, unscheduled, unstructured time together,
Right.
that you can't check that off a list. It's not like, great, we've done the family time, but it's so rich and so meaningful, and your children can get so much out of that. And I think it's
Yes.
this rewiring of your brain that is really productive time.
Right. And for us too, if the kids, it made it, it just gave us that capacity and that margin so that if
Mm.
the evenings were a little bit busy with, 5 kids doing,
Yeah.
things, they did lots of
Yeah.
things. It felt okay because we had spent all day
Yeah.
together and, we were ready to get out now and do things. And they hadn't been sitting, in a classroom all day long.
Yeah.
So I think it made a big difference for them.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Sorry, when I was using that analogy, I was making the point that normally you pick kids up from school who
Yes.
haven't been together all day, and
Oh,
then
sure. Yeah.
so
Right.
no, I
Yeah.
think you're right. It's different if you've just spent the last 6 hours actually learning together. How did you
Yeah.
manage that when you have 5 children of different ages? At one point, you were homeschooling them all.
Yeah.
How did you manage bringing them together, getting them to do their own stuff, and also your time split between the children?
hmm So I did have to be, um, pretty structured at first just to make sure, like, okay, I know what's
Mm.
happening. I know everyone's getting, different things, at the right time. But we did do a lot of things together. As I mentioned, our history was always together. And so we would read alouds and learn about history, together. Our science was usually,
Hmm.
really together. And so really it was just math that they were doing, and, their own reading and language arts studies. And so we had independent things that they could do. My son especially loved the checklist. And so if I would sit him down and say, okay, here are the things, like here are the pages you need to work on today, or the things I want you to read, he could do that easily and enjoy that. And I also paired them up with each other. And so like an older child would read to the toddler, or now it's your turn to do puzzles with the toddler, or just play together, and so I did actually, have to schedule at first when they were all small, now it's time for you to do this. As they got older, and I said they get more independent, they're more autonomous, you can be a little more flexible and, kind of see what happens. And that's really important, to let them have that, like autonomous work time. I know what I need to do. It builds that executive functioning and, the responsibility. And even at our campus in Ann Arbor, we really build that into the day for the students, where they have a big chunk of time where they are like, okay, I'm working on my project and this is the next step. I know I need to do this. And they have time where nobody's talking to them, teaching them anything. They're just sitting and thinking about, okay, what's my next steps for the project I'm working on, or for the thing that I know I need to get done. And it builds such good habits and skills for students.
Yeah, it's a good point, because actually people often worry about, the timing issue and how will I replicate that one-to-one, or not one-to-one, 1-to-30 environment of a teacher in school. But then when they go off to university or college, we suddenly expect them to be capable of independent learning and managing their own workflow.
Right.
And actually, that you're giving them a really good taste of that in those high school years, where they are running those sort of independent projects.
Yes. Yeah. It's such good skills. And we really, whether you're in the campus or off-campus program, we really stress not just content. I mean, content's important. It's part of our evaluation rubric. We have a rubric, but we also ask families and teachers to consider, communication skills and collaboration skills, critical thinking, creativity, and confidence. And, how is the student growing, in all of those areas, and not just, what they're learning, memorizing, taking in, what kind of knowledge they're getting. But how are we setting kids up to leave either their house, when they're finished with homeschooling, or our campus in Ann Arbor, and have the skills to succeed in whatever they do next. And so that's why, we really stress kids being able to identify their interests, to make a plan to study something, to learn how to learn, to advocate for themselves, to be confident, to take risks, to work together in groups. It's all so important. And really the goal is to build this whole, this holistic education, not just, academic content.
And what do they do next? What's the destination of children or students who leave Clonlara?
They do everything imaginable. We have a lot of students who apply to university. We all the way from, Ivy League universities in the US to community colleges. They're really set up to do whatever they want to do. And we really talk with them about, what are your post-secondary plans? There's not one plan that's more valuable than another, but let's just think about, what would get you to that place that you want to be, whether it's, I want to start my own business, or I want to join this apprenticeship program, or I want to go to an Ivy League university. Okay, that's fine. But this is the plan you must, follow, or, whatever they want to do. We try to help them, set themselves up for it at the beginning of high school, really thinking about what will you need to do, for that to happen. Do you need to take AP courses, advanced placement courses? Just know that here's the ways you can do that. And that might be a requirement for the thing that you want to do next. And so it's hard to say what kids do, because they do everything. They really do.
But that's a very good point in and of itself, because whereas schools, particularly private schools, might get a reputation for preparing students for X or for Y, because your whole program is making sure that you're really, really catering to the individual, and obviously they're not largely sitting in a big classroom with other people.
Right.
They don't have to go to the same thing, because it's a completely different approach from what people would think of when they think of a school.
Yes, right. And, one thing I love about Clonlara is that, as I said before, like every transcript is different. And so kids are doing things in high school that will help them, and it's giving them the skills that they need to do the next thing. We've had kids who've filmed documentaries, or, written novels in high school, or, gone to some intense equestrian program because that's what they want to do. And they're getting credit for all of it on their transcripts, but they're also bringing to their next chapter, this wealth of experience and knowledge that it's just not possible for most kids to get, because they do have to follow that set curriculum that the school tells them they must follow. There's not a lot of flexibility or room for following interests. And so we help students think about that. Like, what can you do now that will, help you get the skills to have like kind of a head start in whatever you want to do after you're finished with high school.
And you are a pro at this. You've nearly finished with your 5th child. So what's your personal advice for homeschooling parents who might just be starting out? What's the sort of top piece of advice you would give to nervous but keen homeschoolers?
Yes, well, looking back, I made, a lot of mistakes. I wish I had done things a little bit differently with my first kid, those first few years with my kids. And I think that, being a public school teacher, people think, well, that gives you like the credentials and the ability to do it well. But it also kind of puts you in a box because you are used to doing it one way with a group of 30 students. And so I would just say, don't get too caught up in what the school down the street is doing. Really pay attention to your own students. We say at Clonlara, be a student of your student. Like really pay attention. What lights them up? What gives them that spark? Follow those things. It might not be the topic that 5th grade learns, at the elementary school. It doesn't matter. What matters is that your student is learning to learn. They're keeping their curiosity about the world, and you're helping them develop those skills to find information, to satisfy their curiosities, to reach their goals. And if you do that, even if you miss a couple topics that, they could have done in school, it's fine. If they know how to learn, they can make them up later and they'll be fine. You really just want to try to keep the joy of learning for your kids.
April Huard, thank you so much for speaking to me today. It's been absolutely eye-opening and so encouraging. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining the Seatton Education podcast. Whether you watched us on YouTube or you listened as a podcast, please do subscribe and leave a comment, as I really love hearing from you. If you want to watch my personal highlights and top picks from the interviews, follow at Seatton Education on Instagram. I'll see you next time.